Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and if you can ask you to come on in and take your seats. And I know some of the folks in the back, if you want to move slightly forward, please feel free. Welcome. I am Mark Roithmer. I have the privilege and the honor to be the CEO of the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation. It is wonderful to have you all here today. I think many, if not most in this room, you've all planned events. And you know when you plan events, you should expect the unexpected. Now, did we expect third year in a row a sellout of our event? Yeah, we kind of did. Yeah, there we go. And did we expect with the fabulous honoree this year that we have, that you'll be hearing a lot about, that we would raise almost twice as much as last year? We didn't quite expect the coronavirus, but here we are. We really want to thank all of you who have come out today. We also want you to know that working with the Palm Beach Club, every precaution has been taken for our safety. And matter of fact, we thank the Palm Beach Club because they've been terrific to work with through this. So it is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to have you here today. Just so you know, going in today, we have raised $700,000. That's almost twice as much as last year, and last year was a record-setting year. Again, how fabulous is that? None of this would be possible without your generosity, and the ADDF so thanks you. I am especially grateful, or we are especially grateful, for three people who have helped to make this happen along with an incredible committee. I'm going to ask them each to just stand up because without them, the vision of this event 3 years ago and what the record setting today would have never happened. I'm going to first ask Jan Willinger, who is a co-founder of this event. Jan, where are you? Okay. I also want our co-chair today, Ms. Bonnie Lautenberg, to stand up. And then I will ask the one, the only, somebody who's just such the fabric of everything that ADDF is, and I know so many of you are here because of your friendship and your love for her, which is Ms. Nancy Goods. Just a quick note also, we have some corporate friends who are not only here with us in Palm Beach, but they also support us in New York. I'm just going to mention them quickly. Our friends from Beacon Trust are always with us, our friends from First Republic Bank, and then Morse Life, who's really a partner with us in trying to make great efforts about this human condition that is called Alzheimer's. So to Morse Life and to First Republic Bank and Beacon Trust, thank you very much. We have a great program. You're going to hear about incredible progress in the field. How many folks were just at the symposium? Just a quick raise of hand. How great was that symposium today, right? Yeah. 75% of what we're funding right now is in phase 2 clinical trials. We have a multiple shots on goal approach. That is our approach to solving this issue of Alzheimer's. You're going to hear a little bit later on from our founding executive director and chief science officer, the incomparable Dr. Howard Fillet. We are thrilled to be honoring Judy Glickman Lauder today. For anybody who knows Judy, the words compassionate, altruistic, perceptive, innovative, humanity, those words come to mind. And if you haven't seen it already, Judy about a year ago came out with an incredible book called Beyond the Shadows. And it documents Denmark in World War II, when others were turning their backs on horrible atrocities, how people risked their lives to make sure others saved their lives. And through her incredible lens and the way she sees the world, that is beautifully documented in her book, Beyond the Shadows. If you would like a copy of it, Judy is signing them today, excuse me, with all proceeds going to the ADDF. Thank you, Judy, you're amazing. Yay. Also delighted that Michelle Florin is with us today, and she's going to share a deeply personal and powerful story of caring for a loved one and her family's story, so you'll be hearing that today. But right now, what we're going to do before lunch, so all that's going to come after lunch, but before lunch, we're going to present an award to our fabulous honoree. And to help us do that, is Bonnie Lautenberg, who's going to come forward now. Bonnie, she's a leader on the ADDF's Board of Overseers. She is a phenomenal writer and photographer and artist. She is a dear, 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 dear friend of the Lauder family that you will be hearing about, and she is a dear, dear, dear friend of the ADDF family. I give you Ms. Bonnie Lautenberg.
Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a fantastic crowd, and I really thank all of you for being here today. I know we all think we can't be in a crowded room, but it's beautiful to see all of you here, and we appreciate that you've made the effort. I'd like to thank my co-chair, Nancy Goods, for her abounding energy and all the work she's done to make this event a huge success for 3 years in a row. And to Jan Willinger, thank you for being an original co-founder with Nancy and start this ADDF fundraising lunch in Palm Beach. To Dr. Howard Fillett and CEO Mark Reusmeyer, my hat's off to both of you for an amazing job running this incredible organization. And to Jenny Islin, her team, thank you so much for all you have done to make this afternoon such a success. About 6 years ago, I was invited to Leonard Lauder's annual holiday party in New York, and a couple of days before the party, I received an email that the party was canceled because he and his then girlfriend were going their separate ways. I was so excited. I called my friend Judy Glickman, who was widowed within that year. Leonard and his girlfriend broke up. Are you interested? I could be, she responded. I called Leonard. Leonard, so sorry to hear about your breakup, but the girl for you is Judy Glickman. He said, guess who I'm having lunch with next week? Judy Glickman. Judy didn't bother telling me that. The next week, they had lunch in Colorado because Leonard was hosting the memorial service for Judy's late husband and Leonard's good friend, Al Glickman. After the service, Leonard flew to Anguilla, where I was with my family to spend a week, and he was there with his family to spend a week. We spent time together, and my focus was telling Leonard how fabulous Judy was, and he must call her. Finally, he called her and invited her to come to Palm Beach. What could be nicer? My phone rings. It's Judy. Leonard called me and invited me to Palm Beach, and I said, no. You said what? Judy, call him back and tell him you are coming. If you want Leonard Lauder, you better go to Palm Beach. If you don't, he will be with another woman. She called him, came to Palm Beach, and here they are, deliriously happily married for 5 years and together for 6 years. At their wedding, Leonard made 3 T-shirts that said, you said what? Call him back. You know, I always thought Leonard owed me big time, but I realize that I owe Leonard big time because for what he's done with ADDF for all of us in this room today and for everybody in this world that they can make great strides with research for Alzheimer's. So thank you, Leonard. About 18 years ago, I noticed that my mother couldn't remember the names of any of her grandchildren. Sometime after that, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And supposedly, she went to a great doctor in New York, and all they would do was give her Aricept and Namenda and speak to her every time we came there, like once in every 3 months. And then he would say, well, your mother's in stage 1, your mother's in stage 2, your mother's in stage 2.5. Finally, we stopped going because there was nothing that anybody could do. So it was really terrible. Then I became aware of Leonard and Ronald Lauder's foundation, ADDF, and 2 of their family members had it, so they started this foundation to find a cure or a medicine. And I started going to their events, and then before my mother was dying, I realized that it's so important that I get really involved here. So I did get involved, and I'm now on the board of overseers of ADDF, and I'm really proud to be part of that group. Today, I have the joy of introducing our honoree and my dear, dear friend, Judy Glickman Lauder. Judy is truly beautiful inside and out. To know her is to love her, and I am lucky enough to have been friends with her for the last 35 years. During many of those years, Judy has been photographing the different concentration camps in Europe that became her calling after a 2-day visit to Auschwitz in 1988, the first camp she ever visited. That first visit to Auschwitz was so moving to Judy, it began a spiritual and emotional journey for her where she had to document the cruelty that man could perpetrate to the 12 million people who were killed during World War II. She questioned man's injustice and how anyone could be so cruel and hateful. This project began almost 45 years after the war ended, but with her keen eye and the use of infrared film, these photographs could have been taken during the war years. Her photos of Auschwitz and other camps, the crematoriums, the train stations, barbed-wired landscapes, haunting, magical, eerie, and beautiful at the same time. She then was asked to photograph the heroes who saved Jews in Denmark, a project called the Danish Rescue. This body of work has been so well received. It's been exhibited over 300 times in synagogues, on 25 college campuses, in the United States Senate, at the Daley Center in Chicago, in Holocaust museums, art galleries, and are in many private collections, including my own. Her beautiful book, Beyond the Shadows, The Holocaust and the Danish Exception, is a stunning compilation of both bodies of work, and you can buy it this afternoon, and all the proceeds go to Alzheimer's research. And finally, one of Andy Warhol's great quotes is, "The idea is not to live forever, it is to create something that will." Judy's photography and her book, Beyond the Shadows, The Holocaust and the Danish Exception, is a work we hope will live forever and, and live on forever and remind everyone in future generations of the tragic events that occurred in Europe during World War II. Let's hope these future generations will remember this horrific history through books and artwork like Judy's and never let it happen again. It is with great pleasure for me to ask Judy Glickman Lauder to come up and present her with this award she so deserves. And Leonard's coming up with her. I'm going to hug my friend Judy.
We're not doing elbows. Thank you.
Judy, this is for you. Thank you for
my goodness.
all your success and all you've done. You can take a picture with Leonard.
Thank you. Is somebody taking a
Where's the
picture?
photographer? We're supposed to have a picture.
Hello, come on.
Come closer. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Mark and Howard and everyone, and most especially right here. Thank you, Leonard. Can you come a little closer?
See, I was afraid they would change your mind if you took too long.
Okay. I am so thrilled and so humbled to receive this honor, but I am just so thrilled to see all of you. This honor really is a team effort. ADDF is unbelievable. Ronald and Leonard, brothers, family, came together and had this vision and have been working for many, many years, and it's growing and growing, and breakthroughs will be happening. They are happening, And when this does happen, it's not only going to affect Alzheimer. The brain is such an elusive organ that I just know it's going to affect all neurodegenerative illnesses, such as Parkinson's, which I have had. My late husband, of 54 years of marriage, the last 18 had Parkinson's. And to see someone with a degenerative illness, to see what happens, and the sadness for not only the person, but the whole family and everything. It's so aligned to Alzheimer. And it takes a village to do this. And honestly, the honor is having all of you here and being so generous and I speak all the time about don't be a bystander, be an upstander. And I am looking around this room and I see nothing but upstanders. And thank you for all of your generation and everything that you are doing. Thank you. Thank you.
May I add a few words? Just a few, I promise. Firstly, thank you all for coming and for being brave. Think of it. Everything is closing, but we're here. We're here to fight Alzheimer's, and the fighting spirit will go on forever. Now, Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's knows no political parties, knows no boundaries, knows no anything. All it knows is that it touches everyone around the world. And the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation, which my brother Ronald and I founded with Dr. Howard Phillott as our founding scientific director. Howard, where are you? Please. Where? I can't even see you. Stand up, please. He is a genius, a genius. The fact that we are doing things far beyond what anyone else is doing. We are now the largest foundation doing research only in the world. We have researchers all over the world working on this. Those of you who heard the interesting conversation this morning at a symposium, listen, if people have the Alzheimer's gene, there is now hope. And the work we're doing is to change everyone's genes if they have that tendency to safe genes. Now, years ago, I had a good dear friend who lived in France, in Paris, whose father died of Alzheimer's. And I said, you want to be tested? She says, I don't want to be tested. Why don't I want to be tested? There's nothing I can do about it. We are en route to having what you can do about it. So our pledge to you all, and Judy joins me in that pledge because she is as passionate about the mysteries of the brain as all of us are. Our pledge to you is that during our lifetime, in your lifetime, I better live a long time to get it done, is that we will find a way to prevent and cure Alzheimer's. Thanks to all of you, because you have been great. And Judy, thank you for being my partner all along. And Bonnie, where's Bonnie? Thank you for that great introduction. It's all true. But what Bonnie did not say, however, is that I received a call from Judy. She said, hi, I hear that you and your fiancé have broken up. I said, yes. She said, thank you. Now, I ask you, is that a good introduction to a love affair? However, For those of you who know me and know my family, we are very persistent. And that persistence will play out in what we do for the world and for you in finding the cure for Alzheimer's. So that's my pledge to you and my thanks to you for your support, because you're helping the world. God bless you all, and thank you. Mark, yeah.
I just have one comment before we get to a full lunch here. I have apparently been fact-checked, and the truth is, coming in today, we've raised $698,166. But I know we can get to the $700,000 because A, each of you has a card on your table, so if you're so inclined and want to make an additional donation, it all goes to the science. Also, Judy's wonderful book, and I don't know if you've all seen, there is a wonderful photograph art piece done by Bonnie Lautenberg outside called 2004. If you haven't, take a look at it. It's gorgeous. All of these things are here for you. Bon appetit. We'll be back as dessert is served to do the back half of our program. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Shh. Terrific. What a well-behaved room. Welcome back. We're going to get the second part of the program started. Again, just a reminder, these wonderful donation cards are at your table. We have folks going around, so if you have one filled out, just raise it and we'll collect it from you, and thank you. The other piece, and we've gotten several questions about this, for those of you who have not been able to get to the brilliant symposium this morning, if you want to see it, we're going to have it up on our website, or you can go to YouTube and just put in ADDF, and it will pull up this morning's presentation. So it is there for everyone and to be shared widely. We want to continue the conversation we were having a little bit before lunch, which is about ADDF and our science. We are so blessed that the Lauder family had the vision to look at translational research, to look at, it's one thing to learn about molecules in a lab, but if that's not progressing to help people in real time, we're falling short. We have a brief video we'd like you to watch that shows the impact and the progress of the ADDF and our unique diversity of approaches to drug discovery, the unique minds behind it, the drive, and the hopes for the near and the long term. Enjoy the video.
Mel was reluctant initially to tell friends that he had Alzheimer's. When you become an Alzheimer's patient, it's all about the disease, and he's so much more than that. My husband was CEO of a drug company. He brought Lipitor to market, which is the biggest selling drug of all time. My husband was very philanthropic and a very wonderful, outstanding man. I'm now an ambiguous widow. I have a husband, but I don't have a partner.
It's the kind of disease that can break a family apart, or in a very beautiful way, bring everyone together.
The Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation is the only nonprofit solely dedicated to the discovery and development of new drugs for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. Investors shy away from early stage drug discovery because of the risk, but that's where philanthropy really can play a very important role. Our model is unique because Ronald and Leonard Lauder underwrite all of the overhead of the foundation. Any donation, 100% goes to the development of new drugs.
The pathology of Alzheimer's disease is really identified by amyloid and plaques. The vast majority of late-stage clinical trials supported by pharma industry has been focused on amyloid.
But it's not proving to be druggable, and it may not be a good drug target for Alzheimer's. If you consider that aging is the leading risk factor, now's the time to translate that knowledge into the development of new drugs. And that's our scientific strategy.
ADDF recognized early on that this was a complex disease and it needed to be approached from multiple angles until we figure out what might be effective. And they were really the first entity to do that.
What's always interested me in the ADDF's venture philanthropy is that the organization can be a risk taker, able to back great science or a great idea and have the time frame to nurture that to a drug or science innovation.
We will fund the most promising research anywhere in the world.
Today, you have Bill Gates and other generous philanthropists seeing that this is the pathway to finding a cure.
There are so many drug programs today that we started, which have gone on to progress through the drug pipeline. Michaela Gallagher has one of the very few drugs in phase 3 today for Alzheimer's disease, and one of the only drugs that's not an amyloid program.
Alzheimer's disease is driven by neural overactivity, and we have a drug that decreases that overactivity back to normal.
If the drug works, we might delay or prevent the progression to dementia where people become really impaired.
I don't think I would be doing what we are without ADDF.
I'm passionate about creating therapies to treat so-called uncurable brain diseases. Our drug is currently in a phase 2A trial in patients with mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. The ADDF support for our work has made all the difference in the world from the very beginning.
These drugs that Frank has could be useful not only for Alzheimer's, but for many other neurological disorders. We've been funding Dr. Ron Crystal, one of the world's leading experts in gene therapy. We're hoping that we'll at least be able to delay the onset of Alzheimer's, if not prevent it with this kind of gene therapy.
One of the real advantages of working with the ADDF is the speed in which they can move. We could not do this without them.
60% of the time, dementia experts in the United States get the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease wrong. The first diagnostic test approved by the FDA for Alzheimer's disease, the Amyvid scan, was a test that we funded. The scan has been termed revolutionary in the leading neurology journal in the world. The goal of the diagnostics accelerator that we're doing with Bill Gates and a lot of other prominent philanthropists is to develop blood tests, eye tests, digital tests that are going to be inexpensive, rigorous, and accurate for early detection of Alzheimer's disease in clinical practice. Alzheimer's is already the most expensive disease in the United States. The number of people with Alzheimer's disease is going to triple in the next 2 or 3 decades. If we could delay the onset of Alzheimer's by just 5 years, we would reduce the number of people with Alzheimer's dementia by 50%.
If we don't do this now, it's going to be catastrophic. Financially and emotionally, I know what it does to a family.
I'm a supporter of the ADDF because they will find the cure for this disease.
I'm optimistic, okay? I've been at this 40 years. We've had cancer and diabetes and hypertension research for almost 100 years. We've had research on Alzheimer's going on for about 35 years. On the positive side, we've made incredible strides.
Someday when we have a treatment that works, I guarantee that if we look at the early stages of that project, you will see the footprints of ADDF.
Again?
Nancy, just seeing you in your Mel, right? Right through the heart, which is good. It is now my great pleasure to introduce a gentleman who's ADDF's founding executive director and chief science officer. He has spent his career in Alzheimer's, academic, industry, philanthropy. Leonard said it perfectly before. He is a genius when it comes to the science. Some say savant-like when it comes to the science of Alzheimer's. But he also keeps a small practice, so he never, ever, ever loses sight of his true north, and that are his patients. Dr. Howard Phillott.
Well, thanks, Mark, and I want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to congratulate Judy for being with us today and making a contribution. I want to thank Leonard and the Lauder family. I want to thank Nancy and Bonnie and Jan Willinger for organizing this event and helping us to push the science forward, because that's really what we're here today all about. We're here to push the science forward. We're here to promote the development of new drugs for Alzheimer's disease. That's the only reason that we're here, and that's what we do. You know, I've been doing this 40 years, and as I said in the video, I've never been more excited My professional lifetime, when I started in this disease, when I started research and taking care of people 40 years ago, we knew nothing about this disease. I mean, literally nothing about Alzheimer's disease. There was no research. The National Institute on Aging was started in 1976. My mentor, Bob Butler, who founded it, at the time when there were billions of dollars being spent on cancer and the war on heart disease and cancer, we spent $600,000 on 12 grants for caregiving. That's how it started. So we've come a long, long way where there's over 100 drugs now in clinical trials. And I'm proud to say that ADDF, our modest foundation, it shows the power of philanthropy. We show you the power of philanthropy here. Our modest, our modest foundation has its fingerprint on over 20% of the drugs that are currently in clinical development. Now, clinical development is really expensive, but we're the innovators, we're the catalysts. We take risk on new ideas. And part of our venture philanthropy model is to invest in early stage biotechnology companies that take that risk. They capture the spirit of entrepreneurism. They're the nidus and the catalyst for investment. And they're efficient, and they're able to move these drug programs forward. We've made over 140 venture philanthropy investments in biotechnology companies over the last 20 years, and we've gotten returns back on that. And some of our companies are the leading companies. You saw Frank Longo in the video. We've been funding Frank for 20 years, almost 20 years. In 2007, Frank's work had come along, and I said to Frank, you know, it's time to start a biotech company to make this forward. You can't do this out of Stanford. You've got to do it out of a company. And he started a company. We were founding investors. That drug is in phase 2. Now, like cancer, Alzheimer's disease is a really complicated disease. Imagine all these cancer patients, thank you, who are on 4, 5, 6 drugs. Why are they on so many drugs? The reason is because the pathways to cancer are multiple. It's not like an antibiotic and you're going to give an infection, one antibiotic, it's going to kill the bug, and it's that simple. Cancer cells are deranged in many different ways, and if you just did one drug, the other derangements are going to take over and cancer is going to go forward. That's why you need multiple drugs for cancer. Well, the flip side of cancer with aging is neurodegeneration. It's the same processes in the brain. Instead of getting a tumor, you get our brain cells, which don't divide because we don't want our brain cells dividing in the brain. Otherwise, those circuits that you set up when you learned how to tie your shoes, if those brain cells divide, we're not going to have those circuits. And so the brain cells, when they get sick, they don't divide, they die. We want to prevent those cells from dying so we can keep those circuits of those same neurons that we've had for 70 years. And we need multiple pathways. And the amyloid is just one approach. It's just one approach. It might work, it might not work, but it's just going to be the first, if it works, the first incremental, and we have some little data now, it's going to be the first incremental benefit, but we're going to need other drugs. So for example, when Alzheimer described Alzheimer's disease in 1906, he described the plaques and the tangles, which are the dying neurons, but he also described inflammatory cells around the plaque. For a long time, and I promoted this back in the 1980s, it was not recognized that there was inflammation in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. It turns out that inflammation is the hallmark of aging. Inflammation occurs in the brain, and inflammation probably is a key driver of Alzheimer's disease progression. We started a biotech that we spun out of Northwestern called Neurokine that's now in phase 2 clinical trials in Europe with an anti-neuroinflammatory drug. I only have 30 seconds left, so there's so much I want to tell you. Let me just conclude really that we've seen over 7,000. People say like, well, there's nothing going on. Well, I don't have an hour to tell you everything that's going on. But we've seen over 7,000 ideas in the last 20 years for new drugs for Alzheimer's. We've funded 650 of those ideas in 20 countries around the world, including those 140 biotech investments. We're focused very now on clinical trials because this is a uniquely human disease. And I just want to close by thanking all of you. Again, we're here today about the science. You're helping us to push the science forward. Thank you so much.
Leonard, I think that's the first time Howard stayed on time, right? That was pretty great. Howard, you're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It is my distinct pleasure right now. Well, let me back up. Quick story. I had the privilege of coming to this foundation with Howard and Ronald and Leonard about a little over 3.5 years ago. And we were a very New York-centric organization. And I remember Leonard saying to me, Mark, if you think you're old and you think you're rich, just go to Palm Beach. Just saying. And I went back to Leonard about 2 or 3 months later, and I said, we have a phenomenal ADDF family member and board member and generous donor and philanthropist and loving wife and just all around phenomenal person in that's now in Palm Beach, and she wants to start a luncheon. And that is our founding co-chair, and today's co-chair, Ms. Nancy Goods, who does this purely out of passion and could not be any more philanthropic. Nancy, will you come to the stage?
Thank you for being with us today and again for making this event a huge success. I have the honor today of introducing you to Michelle Florin. I met Michelle last year at the ADDF Connoisseurs Dinner in New York, where she spoke with great courage and grace about her family's story. Michelle is the caregiver for her mother, Jackie, who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at age 54. After hearing Michelle speak and seeing how warmly the audience embraced her, we knew she had to be with us today. As you will soon learn, Michelle most ably represents the next generation of Alzheimer's advocates. She knows firsthand that Alzheimer's requires a team approach that's clearly evident in the world of Alzheimer's research. Today, much of the drug discovery research sponsored by ADDF being done by a team of expert scientists who are looking outside the box for innovative, creative, and effective solutions to prevent, treat, and ultimately cure Alzheimer's. The ADDF realizes, as we all do, that changing the trajectory of Alzheimer's should be one of the world's most important goals. We either solve this disease or it will swamp us. Michelle is dedicated to solving this disease. She is highly active in Caring Kind, a support and advocacy organization for those affected with dementia. She's an avid long-distance runner and has competed in numerous events to raise money for Alzheimer's, including serving as a member of our ADDF's Young Professional Group. In her bio, Michelle says that one of her life goals is to harness the power of positive psychology to improve people's lives. As you will see, she is well on her way. Please welcome our advocate with immense courage and compassion, Michelle Florin.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you all for coming today. I used to believe that Alzheimer's was literally pronounced old-timers. I thought that losing your memory was a normal part of aging, that one day everyone would get old-timers. The truth is, Alzheimer's does not just affect old people, and losing your memory is not a normal part of aging. On January 1st, 2015, I found out my mom, Jackie Florin, had been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at the young age of 54. We knew something was wrong, and while my family was not surprised by the diagnosis, we were heartbroken as we embarked on this painful journey. Since that day, I've written over 40 letters to my mom that I know she will never read. Not because she doesn't want to, but because she can't read. This afternoon, I'm going to share some excerpts from my letters to my mom. Dear Mom, I'm having one of those sleepless nights. If I could, I would wander into your room so I could spill. I would tell you that I'm worried about losing you and worried about David and Dad. I think about all the wisdom you would share with me if you could. You would tell me how lucky I am to have had a healthy version of you in my life for 21 years. How fortunate we are to have Dan and Natalie, your amazing companions and caregivers. You would tell me that even though some days it feels like there's a dagger plunging through my heart, in the end it will be okay, and that being resilient is the only option. I'd tell you that I love you beyond words, you are my sunshine, and nothing will ever change that. Dear Mom, today Dad brought you a bracelet. You pointed to the window 3 separate times while walking on Madison Avenue. You were so happy that you gave Dad a kiss. You are rarely able to string together the 3 words, I love you, yet your unconditional love for Dad came shining through today. Dear Mom, you once told me that when people lose someone they love, they push others away when they need them the most. I'm experiencing that now. As you decline, we're forced to learn to grieve again and again. I lost you at 22 when you forgot my birthday and our mother-daughter shopping plans. I lost you a year later when you didn't remember where you were going after you left the apartment and didn't understand how to ask someone for directions to get home. I lost you when you stopped forming full sentences and started needing help in the shower. As the disease progresses, we have to keep learning to let go. I feel like I'm living 2 lives, one as a caregiver and one as a 26-year-old woman in New York City. It's exhausting to balance friendships, my career, and caregiving. Most 26-year-olds don't think about how their mom won't know their grandchildren and likely won't be at their wedding. They don't tense up each time the phone rings thinking it might be an emergency. They've never comforted their crying mom who can't stop asking, what is wrong with me? I feel lonely because no one understands, because of course they can't understand. Dear Mom, you tried to communicate something to me tonight. You pointed to me and said, you do it and I do it, and then babbled some gibberish. I believe you were pointing out our role reversal as I helped you get changed. You looked so confused and upset because you couldn't figure out how to take off your pants. I tried not to cry, but I couldn't help it. During my toughest nights, the feelings are so heavy, the emotions so intense, it's like a bad dream, and I'm still waiting to wake up. Dear Mom, the past few months have been extremely difficult as you decline quickly and the confusion increases. You've been hallucinating and asking to go home every day. You can no longer use a fork and have been eating less and less, and while we are beyond lucky to have Bernie, a living caretaker who you seem to trust, it is heartbreaking to accept that things will get more challenging because of the degenerative nature of this disease. Nevertheless, every day I hold on to your smiles and your laugh. I channel your energy and bravery because we need it. We're navigating uncharted waters without a map. Dear Mom, slowly over the past few months, you've lost all mobility below your neck. Despite being confined to a wheelchair, on the good days, you still manage to laugh and engage. Sometimes you're even able to mutter a few words, and I swear the other night you tried to say, I love you. But most days, all I can do is hold your hand and hope that somewhere in there you hear me. I often play video clips of the happier times. I remember 4 years of laughter and love. The living room dance parties, screaming woohoo in public places, the obsession with helicopters and Bernese mountain dogs. You were such a source of joy. Dear Mom, I often wonder what happens if it's me. I try my best not to go down that rabbit hole, but some nights the fear is too strong. I don't want my future husband and children to experience what I'm going through. I don't want the people I love to feel the pain if I develop Alzheimer's. I'm hopeful that we are closer to finding a cure than ever before. Unfortunately, all we can do for you right now is create the most comfortable environment with the best care. Your safety, happiness, and quality of life is and will continue to be our priority. Dear Mom, your mom passed away. Sitting in the emergency room with Dad on Wednesday, we couldn't stop thinking about how you weren't with us. How unfair that you couldn't say goodbye to your mom, your best friend, your confidant, your biggest cheerleader. How unfair that you may not even know or understand that she's no longer with us. You would always say that life isn't fair and life can change in an instant. And boy, did I feel those things tonight. There are few words to describe how this disease weaves its way into every part of your life. Every birthday and celebration is bittersweet, and every heartbreaking moment is a bit more emotional. I believe that you know that Grandma's gone. I know if you could, you would tell us to keep our heads held high and keep moving forward, and that is what we will do. Dear Mom, today I shared my story for the third time. Each time I speak, I hold a letter you wrote to me over 10 years ago at summer camp. You wrote, "You are so brave, and I'm so proud of you. You are my sunshine." Thank you for those encouraging words. Mom, despite this disease, you are my ray of sunshine, and I will always love you to pieces. Love always, your daughter, Michelle. As many of you know, Alzheimer's impacts families and communities deeply. Each day is a roller coaster of emotion, so my family and I are thankful for every good day. I'm also thankful for my incredible support system, my friends, family, and especially my dad, who is here today. Thank you for being my rock and showing me what unconditional love looks like. Thank you to the ADDF for hosting this beautiful event and for all of your hard work. I'm hopeful that with the right resources and research, we will soon find a cure for this horrific disease, maybe even in our lifetime. To all of you here today, thank you so much for coming and for your continued support of the ADDF. I have one final ask. If you love someone, your kids, grandkids, spouse, whoever it may be, please tell them and tell them often. Let them know, because one day they may not be able to, or you may not be able to. And I know that my mom loves me because she told me every single day why she could. I will hold on to those memories forever. Thank you for listening to my story and for letting me speak today. Thank you so much.
As you all sit, I'd just like one person, if you wouldn't mind, to stay standing. Joel Florin, you have a gorgeous daughter, family, wife. Thank you for sharing that all here with us today. You know, I was letting Leonard and Judy know back in New York, just in the last 2 or 3 months, there's been a launch of a Young Professionals Committee, which at ADDF for 22 years, there's been 22 years trying to launch a Young Professionals Committee. And it's the passion and emotion of young professionals like Michelle, as well as Leonard's grandson, Josh, who have come together to form that committee. And it's 30, 40 people strong, and they're off raising a bunch of money already. And if anybody ever needs, crazy times we live in, right? And then we hear people like Michelle, and we know what our purpose is, why we're here, as Howard talks about his true north. And we all share in that. And again, I'm going to wrap it up here in a second, but any of you who are there further touched by that, please, there's cards at the table, and there'll be people at the doors, because none of the Michelle and Joel, they share their family's story, but way too many of us in this room, we have all of our stories, and none of this can come too fast. And for that, we thank you today. On a much more light topic, we need to thank Heidi McWilliams, because she works with Tom Matthew. And Tom donated the beautiful centerpieces that we have here today. And yeah, you like that, right? And if you pick up your programs, one of you at each table has a gold sticker on the bottom of your program. And guess what? You get the floral centerpiece today, which is great. I mentioned Heidi McWilliams, who's such a big part of the ADDF family. I want to recognize, we got some winners. Leonard, you can't take it home. Jim Dickey, there we go. 3 other people that are just in the room, and I just want you to wave your hands, because they are part of our boards that make up ADDF. Heidi's other half, Tom McWilliams, who's right here in the front. Yay. The chair of our Board of Overseers, Ms. Sharon Sager, who's just fabulous. And then from our ADDF board, Dave Gerson is here with us today. And we have learned from the Lauder family that we call this our ADDF family. And if this is your first time today, you're now part of it. So we're all thrilled to be together. Again, a thank yous to the triumvirate of Nancy, Bonnie, and Jan, and the entire host committee that what you've done here today. A big thank you and congratulations, Judy. Yay. And Leonard, thank you. And I will also tell you, you did not make me a liar, because at last count, we've raised over $708,000. Thank you very, very much. We look forward to the 4th annual Palm Beach Luncheon. Good afternoon, everybody.